summer workouts for Illinois, because we can't be in there by NCAA rule. Brad Underwood wouldn't let us in there anyway, by his decision. But obviously we hear things that come out of these summer workouts. So let's start with a guy I think could have a monster season, a guy who now is in two of the most credible NBA mock drafts. Now, these are way too early mock drafts. Curbelo was in some mock drafts at this time last year. So we use that qualifier, but I think it's a very big positive. Coleman Hawkins is starting to receive that buzz, and you and I see it. The skill set is what the NBA is looking for in a front court piece. But what are you hearing about Coleman Hawkins? Obviously going from the only starter returning and ended the season playing some of his best basketball of his life.
Heard a lot of good things here recently about Coleman. I know that this is a huge offseason for him to develop his jump shot, to have the game slow down for him a little bit, because while he does have that skill offensively to do some stuff off the dribble, there are times where he just played a little sped up. And I know Brad said he would not play where he jump stop and play off 2 feet. He would get caught with those momentum and maybe make some mistakes, make some turnovers. But there's no doubt in terms of the profile of what the next level is looking for with the size, the length, the mobility. Defensively, I mean, you keep going back to that Keegan Murray performance where he was defending him in the regular season finale, and where Keegan gets selected even over Jaden Ivey, how Keegan's played in the summer league. It just continues to be like more of a focal point of what a masterpiece by Coleman Hawkins to not completely shut him down, but really contain him at a great level in that game. And obviously Ron Harper Jr. was another one that he had a success against back in December. So I think Coleman, he really had some people scratching their heads at one point this offseason with some of his comments and about, having talked a lot with the staff and kind of waiting to see how the dominoes fall. Ultimately,
there was one of the weirdest interviews, and that's why he was so vague about everything. I was finally like, Coleman, are you coming back? And he is, right? It was odd. I know it probably ruffled some feathers, but man, the opportunity in front of him, it always never made sense for him to leave here, Derek.
Right, and I agree with that. There was some tension, I think, resulting around that or just existing there. And ultimately, Coleman just wants to be able to show what he can do. And I think that, look, he's not alone. He's a little bit more vocal than most players, might speak his mind a little bit more than most players. But I think a lot of guys will go through the portal process and try to wait and see, like, okay, if they bring in this guy, what does this mean for me? I'm going to be a junior, and I should be stepping into a big role. So he's wanted that, and now they've got out on the practice court. It sounds like he's playing at another level as far as the way he's locked in, his confidence, his production. He's bringing it every day. I think this group of guys around him is really, based on what I've heard, have been good for him, because there's a lot of hungry dudes out there on that court. There's guys that know that they can have a big year and go pro. There's young freshmen that are trying to make their mark and know they're talented and trying to crack the rotation or carve out a big role for themselves. So it's been really competitive, and it sounds like Coleman here recently has really shined with his play at both ends.
Yeah, I don't mind Coleman being like, hey, like I should be a go-to guy this year. I think he earned that last year. He's ready now to kind of take on that role. But that doesn't mean Brad Underwood shouldn't be adding more pieces around him to make him better and to push him. And I think it's a very big positive, and I think it could be great for all sides moving forward. You mentioned his defense on Keegan Murray, Ron Harper Jr. I would put that performance up there as well. That's what I'm going to hammer home. Like, I know Coleman probably wants to average like 15 points a game, right? Like he'd love to. And I think he's capable of doing it. He doesn't need to. He really doesn't need to be that to be as high of a draft pick as he wants to be, or to be a draft pick. I think his goal, and I keep hammering this, Derek, and I will all off season, be the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, because I think he can be. And I think his role in the NBA is going to be guarding guys like Keegan Murray, like he did last year, guarding those big wings, being able to switch and pestering them, and then making open threes. If he shoots 35% from three, averages double digits, and is one of the best defenders in the Big Ten, I think he's going to be a top 40 pick in the NBA.
Yeah, I'd fully agree with that. I think that his upside defensively is really, really high, and he's shown what he's able to do with, like that, his length, his mobility, his switchability. And now that this defense is going to be more positionally versatile, and they're going to switch some things, and they're going to geared towards that side, I think that's just going to allow Coleman to shine even more of switching on to wings, switching on to guards. He's got the foot speed to be able to do it. I think this team's going to try to get a little bit more aggressive as far as turnovers go. And you know that defensive player of the year, sometimes you need those counting stats. You need the steals, you need the blocks. But Coleman can slide over. If there's a guard driving the lane, Coleman can slide over and block a shot. I think that he can get his hand in the passing lane and get some steals. But I mean, if he shuts down the Chris Murrays, Keegan's brother, if he gets a matchup with Trace Jackson Davis, we'll see. There's other guys around the league that he's going to have some big matchups with. But I think that the staff has a lot of confidence in what he can do at that end. I think that really plays into his stock offensively. If he just continues to build off what he showed defensively and shoot the ball a little bit better at the other end, I think that he's definitely put himself in position to be a draft pick.
Yeah, we know he can play make. He can pass well. He just doesn't need to force things on that end. I think if he runs the court, he's going to get a lot of easy points. I think he's going to find a lot of open shots with the talent around him as well. So I'm excited about what he's going to do. All right, Terrence Shannon, newcomer. He's been on a campus for about a month there. Another guy that's getting NBA draft buzz, and that's not a surprise. He was getting it at this point last year. Had the injury that slowed him down a little bit. But we keep saying, like, if we have to fill out who's the leading scorer for Illinois, it's probably Terrence Shannon because he scored more than anybody on this team. I believe in college, maybe Meyer because he's played another season, but Shannon is the most proven scorer at this level. So what are you hearing about Terrence and what he's bringing to the program already?
Well, Brad's been very vocal about his work ethic and has made the comparisons to Io as far as the work he's putting in the gym, which I know me personally, I think a lot of people are like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I mean, that's really sacred ground there. Like Io is the example of in the gym, constantly living in the gym, 3 workouts a day. You want to be careful with that, but
yeah, sometimes like we say like, hey, the comps, we should be a little careful with them. Brad is not. Brad loves the comps. He loves the comps more than we do, I think.
He does. Sometimes I think he just throws those out there to see the reactions and see who's getting fired up about it, who's buying it, who's on the other side of it, trying to be like, all right, Brad's going hyperbole again. But it's been pretty consistent around the program of Terrence being a tireless worker, a guy that's in the gym every morning, a guy that's pushing others around him with his competitiveness. I know that I talked to Tyler on the radio. He said that he's got that quote unquote Chicago dog in him. So he's someone that wants to challenge somebody each and every day. And it sounds like the battles between him and RJ have been really good. I think that Terrence has pushed RJ and brought the best out of him. And that's only going to help someone that's got a chance to make a huge sophomore leap to see that. And another thing that everybody knows, Terrence is explosive and transition can really play above the rim. And last year was a really efficient catch and shoot guy. But the buzz that I've heard is defensively, you got to watch just his impact there because he's so strong. He's long, he can move. And they're working on his flexibility to continue to loosen up his body a little bit more. He had the back injury last year that kind of really nagged at him as far as some of his ability to rebound, some of the things that he traditionally did when he was feeling 100%. So they're trying to work on that. But they've said defensively, he's really been a menace and just brings that competitive fire each and every day.
Yeah, and I'm about to transition to Matthew Meyer here. Like one thing we're talking about with some of these best players on the team, Coleman, Terrence Shannon, Matthew Meyer, RJ Melendez. I think all those guys can play with each other, play with every piece on the court. They're so versatile. We've talked about that, but they all should be able to defend. And that's where I think this team could be really, really good. All right, Terrence Shannon, probably as high of a floor as anybody on this team, which is why, I think he's going to be an NBA prospect because he's a big body, as you said, athletic, can shoot threes, can defend. The question I think, Derek, would be, can he play make for himself, can create for himself? And I would imagine he gets a lot of opportunities to do that this year.
For sure. They're really repping him playing in ball screens, and they want to have a team that is going to have multiple guys playing off of the ball screen, whether it be Terrence, Matthew Meyer, Coleman can do it a little bit, Ty Rogers. So it's not just going to be Skyy Clark and Jaden Epps point guard ball screens. It's going to be a handful of different guys. And Terrence last year struggled in that. He had, I think you look at synergy, he had 60 or 70 possessions playing out of ball screens, and his efficiency was not good. I think he was in 11th percentile in the NCAA. So what they've noticed is he has a tendency to play sped up in that, has an issue with turnovers, and his off the dribble shooting needs to get better. So that's kind of that in between game. We've talked about that before, where at the rim he can really finish. He can also hit the spot up three, but can he make a jump shot off the bounce if they're going to give him that in between? Can he make the right decision and play a little bit more slowed down? But By giving him those reps this summer, they're hoping that that gets to be something that he's a lot more comfortable with. If he can really be, because I think he's going to be, him and Meyer and the primary options in your offense. You think about late game running stuff for Terrence, running stuff for Matt. The ball's going to be in their hands, and maybe it is coming off a ball screen and making a decision, and they just want him to be comfortable with that, and that's something that he's trying to progress forward with.
Matthew Meyer, the one thing you keep hearing from Brad Underwood is, and Tyler said it to you, I believe, in your interview with him, he can play make with the ball in his hands, right? That seems like they're pushing that as more of a strength for Matthew Meyer. So he got on campus last week, had to go through some testing and things like that to be cleared to play and all that. But what are you hearing about Matthew Meyer and what he could be?
They're just really excited to see the battles between him and Coleman, between, you throw Terrence in there and Ty Rogers, and they've said to make sure that, don't underrate Matt's athleticism too. Like they think he's a really good athlete. His mobility, what he can do defensively as far as switching on the guards and just having a lot of space that he can cover with his length. But yeah, he's someone that if you watch him at Baylor, he did take some ill-advised shots, but he's someone that can push it in transition and make a play, get to the rim, hit a pull-up three. And yeah, I think passing-wise is something that they like out of him too. So they need to see it play out here in workouts, get acclimated, understand, rotations and everything, and just get adjusted to the new system, his new teammates and everything. But they're really excited about Matt, what he's going to bring. And he's really that piece that once you added him, you could go all in on that positionally versatile switching stuff and just having this kind of idea of a new style of basketball. I think adding Matt already, I mean, you had Ty and you had Coleman and you had taking Kofi out of the mix, was already gearing towards it. But once Matt was added as well, I mean, someone that can play the 4, someone that can play the 5 in a small ball lineup. There's a lot of excitement about the versatility that he brings.
Of course, a lot of excitement about this freshman class, one of the best Illinois has added in a really long time, Derek. So I was going to say, like, one of the MVPs of this offseason is going to be the strength and conditioning coach, Adam Fletcher, right? I mean, you talk about Skyy Clark coming back from his knee injury. And then, of course, Terrence Shannon with his back. And Illinois has done a great job putting out some content, promoting their guy, Adam Fletcher. And it's really informative. It's really good. So what are you hearing about these freshmen, especially, Skyy Clark coming in and now Ty Rogers, obviously coming back after a great summer with USA basketball?
I know that Skyy's still not 100% and not full go quite yet. He's going through some drills. He's been shooting the ball really well. I know that's something that I've heard about him, and has a great stroke, great handle. It's just getting him back to where he's ready to just let loose, but also, explosiveness wise with his quickness. I think that's going to be important in terms of getting by guards at this level. But they're being patient, and they can be. They still got a lot of time before the season starts here to really let him loose. But I know that he's trending in the right direction. We'll have to see once he gets full go 5-on-5 what that ultimately looks like. Jaden Epps is someone I've heard a lot about his quickness. He can get in the lane whenever he wants. We know that he's a bucket getter, that he's wired to score with his pull-up jumper. He can hit from 3. I think when he gets, one thing I noticed about him in AAU, and it sounds like when he's able to get in the lane around traffic, he really handles himself well. He's got some strength to him. He can still see the floor for kickouts and everything. And I think they've been really excited just about this group as a whole. And again, Skyy hasn't really been a ton in the mix full go, but defensively, these guys can cover a lot of ground. Like Jaden with his quickness, his toughness, he's a pit bull. Ty Rogers, we know his length. We know how much he loves to defend. And Sincere Harris, someone that needs to shoot the ball better a little bit from the outside and still needs to add some strength, but they love his upside as a two-way type of defender, three-point shooter that can combine both of those dynamics and have his quick twitch athleticism. So like most freshmen, they're still learning. They still have mistakes that you hear talking about. They need to still learn about defensive rotations, not making mistakes, but they're really excited about that group and know that they're going to be able to be guys that can compete and push certain guys for minutes. And I think the point guard spot's going to be really interesting, though, as it plays into late in the summer, into the fall, how Skyy and Jaden battle each other and just how that group in general is handling, not turning the ball over and doing the right things.
Sometimes Sincere Harris gets kind of left out of the conversation of freshmen because I do think he's going to have to add strength, right? But I mean, I think he can defend right away, at least from an athleticism and length standpoint. He's got to add that strength. But he's the guy that I feel like when he's an upperclassman, Derek, like those guards at Houston, like he's got some of that to him. I was just going to mention, like in 2K, eventually are they going to have like dog is one of the things, like you got agility, accelerate, like shooting, all that, like that dog in him. Like, is that going to be it? Dog. And I think he's got a lot of that, but he's got that athleticism, that switchability defensively. And obviously he has a pretty good offensive game from high school. It's got to translate to the college level, but like a Tajay Moore guy, I can see him developing into that down the road.
Yeah, the dog icon that Anthony Edwards should have, that Dame Lillard should have. You pass that along to Ty Rodgers, Sincere Harris, Jaden Epps. Definitely, no doubt. And Tajay Moore, when you said Houston, that's exactly what I thought of, as someone that's really bouncy, that's long, that's a good defender. And I think it's just strength. And I think it's improving the three-point jumper. There's no doubt in my mind. It's going to be early in the season. Illinois is going to be up big, and they'll have the reserve lineup in there, and Sincere Harris is going to make a play in transition where he's going to throw down an impressive slam, and the Orange Crush can be like, oh man, this guy, this is one of our guys, or he's going to mix it up with somebody because he's really competitive and jaws a little bit. I think that he's going to endear himself to the fan base pretty early on, but yeah, as he gets stronger, as he develops, there's a lot of excitement about what he can be.